Welcome to Break the Cycle with Bethany Dotson, the podcast for high achieving professional women who struggle with codependency, attracting emotionally unavailable partners, and who repeat dysfunctional patterns in love. I'm your host, Bethany Dotson, and if you want to learn more about how to break your cycle in love, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and be the first to know when a new episode drops. I'll see you inside. Good afternoon, everybody. Today, I am going to break down how to stop doing this pattern, how to trust yourself again, how to make radically different choices in relationships, how to heal your trauma. And I'm going to give it to you in a 5-part high level overview. So, if you've seen my masterclass, Break the Cycle, these points are going to be familiar. But because most people struggle with lifelong patterns, hearing this again is worth repeating because we learn by repetition. We also learn by taking action. So, just a caveat, while some of these things might give you insight, insight alone does not change behavior. You have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to emotionally regulate when you're taking action outside of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to be consistent. And human beings like the comfort zone. And this is especially true for you if you've had a lot of trauma, if you've been betrayed, if you feel inherently like you're not good enough, or you question, am I ever going to have a healthy relationship? So, without much further delay, let's go ahead and dive right into it. So, the first point that I want to make for you, the first step that you need to wrap your head around if you want to break out of this pattern of not feeling like you can trust yourself or trust other people, is to learn to be selfish. And most women who get into unfulfilling relationships believe that being selfish is bad. Any person with a decent conscience is probably going to think that being selfish is bad. You probably have references from your ex. Your ex was self centered. Your ex was all about themselves. Your ex cheated on you. Your ex was all about getting his needs met. So you probably have references that point to being selfish is bad. But you, if you look back at your relationship history, have been selfless to a fault, meaning you lose your identity, you lose your values, you lose your direction in life, you lose your emotional compass, you lose your drive, your goals, your motivation, your ambition, you lose everything in order to make a relationship feel safe. The irony is that a lot of people lose themselves in relationships because of abandonment issues, because of prior trauma, because of not wanting to feel rejected or be alone, and they compromise themselves to such a great extent that they feel that they don't even know who they are anymore. And the longer you go in your life believing that being selfish is bad and believing that you're a bad person on some level, if you say no, are you afraid to say no to people because you don't want to make them feel bad? I just was speaking with someone the other day that had just gotten out of an abusive relationship. Her partner was an addict and she felt bad because outside of his addiction, he was a great person and she felt bad for leaving. So the longer you go in your life, believing that you're a bad person for saying no, for setting boundaries, not wanting to make people feel bad, the longer this pattern is going to perpetuate. And the more scenarios life is going to present you that are going to cause you to feel drained because we repeat what we don't repair. So, learning to be selfish doesn't mean that you're a narcissist. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It means that finally, for the first time in your life, whether you're a mother, whether you're a single mother, whether you've always been the caretaker, we get a lot of references in life, especially as women. We're nurturers by nature. We have societal conditioning, we have cultural conditioning. People in the South sometimes, it's better to be seen and not heard. The longer you go believing that you're a bad person, if you set boundaries or you hurt somebody's feelings, the longer you're going to go feeling like life is unfair. And so learning to be selfish is the first critical step, learning to believe that you're a good person when you prioritize yourself and that you're not robbing people or you're not taking away from somebody is the first critical step in learning to heal this lifelong pattern. The other thing I want to say is that oftentimes people are selfless because when you grow up with trauma or you grow up or you've had adult relationships where you're constantly walking on eggshells, your focus in life is more outside of yourself. I need to scan and be aware what's happening out here in my environment so I can modify my behavior so I don't rock the boat or I don't make somebody upset. And when your focus is out here, the more practiced you are at that, the less skilled you are at tuning in and listening to yourself, and your brain gets wired differently. So, being selfish inherently is really about learning to reprogram your brain and your body to be comfortable prioritizing yourself and being selfish, not settling. And it's one thing to grasp this concept logically, it is a completely different thing to apply it in your life. And we're going to get to that in a second. So, the second thing that you need to keep in mind if you want to break this pattern forever is to stop blaming your ex and accept responsibility. Period. End of story. It's very easy to say that your ex is a narcissist. And this is not to discount at all any abuse that you've been through, any mistreatment. It's not your fault. At the same time, at some point, you have to look at yourself. You have to stop researching the narcissist. You have to stop blaming your circumstances or your relationship choices on your parents or your childhood or your ex ruined you for other people or whatever the case may be. And you have to turn that mirror towards yourself and ask yourself, how am I blocking my success? Why am I choosing these people? Why did I choose to override the red flags that I felt immediately with my ex and stay 10 more years? What is it within me that is a match for this type of a relationship? How can I take ownership of my choices and make the commitment and the firm decision to change that for the rest of my life and not shut down, not be jaded, not keep people at arm's length, not mistrust everybody, not continue to mistrust myself, not hold myself back in life because I'm scared. So you have to take ownership of the ways that you are emotionally unavailable, the ways that you are a match for toxic relationships. I see a lot of people blaming my ex was emotionally unavailable. All of the partners that I get have been emotionally unavailable. All the partners that I get seem to be commitment phobic. They don't want to commit to me. And if that is your pattern, or I get addicts a lot. I always get addicts, but then I stay 10 years trying to get them to change. I'm just so, codependency, which is the flip side of being with a narcissist, right? Or being with an addict, the pervasive addictive pattern of wanting that person to change and hoping and buying into potential, that alone is an addiction. So if you're getting with addicts, you need to look at, how am I the addict in my relationships? If you're getting with emotionally unavailable people, how am I emotionally unavailable with myself? Most people that I work with are masterful at escaping their feelings. They escape their feelings when they ignore red flags. They escape their feelings of loneliness by becoming workaholics when they're single, or even when they're in the marriage or in the relationship. They don't want to deal with the chaos that's going on behind closed doors. So they turn to work and that becomes their salvation. But we all know that there's a lot more to see and enjoy and experience in life than just work. So you need to take responsibility for the ways that you are holding yourself hostage. It's never about other people. Other people are just a mirror. And if you finding you have this pattern, it's never about the people you're attracting. It's always about you. And the faster you can accept that, as uncomfortable as that might be, the faster your healing begins to take place and the more lasting your transformation is. So accepting responsibility is the second point that you need to understand that I want to convey to you. The third, probably the most important point to grasp if you want to break a lifelong pattern of attracting narcissistic partners unfulfilling relationships, start to feel like you can trust yourself again, is using trauma informed methods for healing. Most people get into talk therapy. Most people research. Most people read books. Most people take retreats. They chase a promotion at work. They join a new gym. They get into some meetup groups. They do all the right things on the surface to rearrange their lives, and they do what most experts and conventional wisdom says are the right things to do. But unfortunately, that doesn't work, right? I've talked to thousands of people at this point, and if I had a dime for every person who'd spent thousands of dollars on therapy and they still don't trust themselves and they still get into codependent relationships and they still in a job environment with a narcissistic boss and they still attract narcissists, I would be a zillionaire by now, right? So it's not that those things are bad. It's just that when you have unhealed trauma, research shows now, especially in the last decade, that talking about it and reanalyzing your past in the rear view mirror, recycling the stories, anchor your trauma, they doesn't heal it because you're firing and wiring the same circuits in your brain that are associated to the trauma. You're not creating new ones and you're not creating new feeling states in your body. Most people who are traumatized struggle with anxiety. They struggle with people pleasing. They feel like a bad person inherently. They're not stepping fully into their potential because belief systems and it never felt safe to do so in the past. And the more you talk about it, the more you fire and wire the same circuits in your brain and you fire and wire the same feelings in your body. And it feels good to vent. It feels good to feel like somebody's hearing you finally, but that does not alone heal your trauma. So when you are looking for to help you heal your trauma, you need to be using mind body methods. Somatic therapy specifically has been proven in research to be highly effective for people who struggle with complex trauma or complex PTSD. Complex trauma is the type of trauma that you experience inside the container of an intimate or an interpersonal relationship, right? It's the emotional abuse, it's the manipulation, the gaslighting, the mistrust, the lies. This type of trauma is what most people who struggle with bad patterns in their relationships have. And research shows that the more you talk about this on the surface, the more it just reinforces that pattern. You get some insights, but like I mentioned before, insights alone are not enough to change behavior, especially deep rooted fears and belief systems and responses that you have to relationships. And when you have unhealed trauma, it's not just up here in your head, it's stored as a constellation of emotional responses in your body to certain situations. I was talking with a client today who said, I get triggered. I just freeze. I just clam up. It's like I'm not even there. It's like it didn't happen. She completely disassociates. And most people who have unhealed trauma have a response that they've memorized, their bodies have memorized. So you get them through difficult moments in relationship. And if your relationship history has been dysfunctional, it's 99.9% probably certain trauma is ruling your choices. And there's only so much logical understanding that you can get. You have to dig deeper. You have to get into your subconscious program. You have to work with your body. You have to relax your focus. You have to train your body to feel relaxed. You have to train your body that it's safe to feel your emotions fully. And unfortunately, talk therapy, there's a research by the National Institute of Cognitively Applied Behavioral Therapy, something like this. There was a paid research study several years ago specifically for women who'd been in emotionally abusive relationships. And 78% of the people that they studied did not have lasting transformation with talk therapy. They felt good in the moment, but then they went right back to their patterns. You need to be using trauma informed work, right? Trauma informed somatic work, things that are working with your body, things that are going to help you feel safe, your nervous system feel safe to help you get out of anxiety, hypervigilance, fight or flight mode, feeling constantly on edge, people pleasing, feeling like you got to fix other people. All of these things are rooted in unhealed trauma. And you need to be using a body based, somatic based approach to do this. Okay. So that's the biggest thing. And I see so many people not doing that. They read books, they watch YouTube videos, they go to a therapist, they go to 20 therapists. Well, a lot of people that I work with have been in therapy for their whole lives and they're still struggling. You have to be using the right type of therapy, the right type of method if you have trauma. And if this is a relationship pattern, it's probably trauma related. So that's the biggest thing. The fourth important shift that you need to be making is getting out of your comfort zone. When people have been betrayed, when they feel like they've trusted somebody and it's come back to bite them in their butt, when they have repeated failure in life, it's very easy to start living a small, stagnant life. They don't take risks. They don't allow themselves pleasure in their life. They can wake up, go to work, try to stay chronically busy throughout the day so they don't feel anything, try to hurry up and go to bed, have a glass of wine, take some Xanax, binge out on Netflix, binge out on their phones. They numb themselves out to the experience of life so they don't have to feel anything. And when you're living like that, you're not gonna see any changes. You just like you become comfortably numb. I was talking with somebody earlier today who'd spent 8 years being single. It'd been 4 years since she'd been on a date. And she'd normalized the belief that she's probably never gonna have a good relationship. That's sad. That's a sad place to be. But most people who have this betrayal trauma and have trauma realize on some level that it's sad, but because they've normalized it so much, they've numbed themselves out to it. They don't have any initiative or motivation to step out of their comfort zone. So if you want to have a healthy relationship, truly, and you've never had that before, trust me, you are going to have to get out of your comfort zone. Period. You're going to have to be vulnerable. You're going to have to put yourself in situations on purpose that are going to cause you to feel rejected. They're going to run the risk of you feeling abandoned, that are going to run the risk of feeling all of your insecurities, because that is what needs to happen for you to make different choices, to make empowering choices. And far too many people spend way too much time and energy trying to avoid that. Just like they avoided red flags in the beginning, they spend a lot of money on alcohol. They spend a lot of money on Botox. They spend a lot of money on clothes, cars, shopping. Let me move to this new city. Let me get this new career. They do all these things to rearrange out here, but on the inside, they still feel unsatisfied. They still feel unhappy. And in order to get the type of relationship that you want, in order for you to feel happy, you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone and do that every day. And then going back to what we talked about in the third shift, use your trauma informed tools to emotionally regulate yourself in the moment so you don't slip back into your old dysfunctional patterns and choices. And this is ultimately what we help our clients master when we work together is number one, healing their trauma. Number two, stepping out of their comfort zone every day, every week, and then using the stuff they're learning to rewire their psychology and their body and bringing it forward with them into their life choices and their relationship choices, right? So you got to be trauma informed. You got to be stepping out of your comfort zone. That's shift number four. And then the last and final piece is that you really ideally need to be investing in working with a professional, whether that's a mentor, whether that's a coach, whether that's a therapist. I see a lot of people, they apply to book breakthrough sessions. They've never taken that investment themselves, and that's fine. But one of the drawbacks for people who have complex trauma or CPTSD is this sense of hyper independent. I can do it myself. I've got to rely on myself. And people with that pattern tend to get some sort of significance from being the strong woman, the strong achiever, the woman who can fix anything, the woman who can fix anybody or who tries to fix anybody. But when you have the mindset of, I can't trust anybody, I'm just going to try to fix it myself. I'm going to cross my fingers and my toes and hope that maybe the right person comes along. I don't want to be mean. It's probably safe to say you're probably not going to make any significant changes. There's a saying that the inside of the jar, the inside label, right? You've got a pickle jar. There's the label on the outside and the inside of the jar. The inside of the jar can't read the outside label. And that's to say that and we all have blind spots. We all have blind spots that we can't fully see. And working with a mentor, making that investment in yourself gives you the opportunity to have somebody who's a mirror who's going to call you out on all of your hiding spots and give you the tools and the roadmap and the strategy and the mindset and the emotional support to help you get from point A to point B faster. I can speak from personal experience, and I spent 12 years in talk therapy. Wasn't bad. I got some insights. I still wasn't changing my life. I was still falling for narcissists. And in fact, it got a lot worse. But the moment I decided to invest in trauma informed coaching and trauma informed methods, and specifically coaching is about recognizing you as a whole person where you are, regardless of your past, meeting you where you are and helping you move forward. Therapy is typically about seeing where you are right now and then helping you understand why you are here and linking that to past experiences and helping you get those aha moments. But the drawback with therapy is it's typically focused on your past. Coaching is focused on moving you forward and making lasting changes, making lasting habits, making behavioral changes that are transformative and that so you don't default back to your old dysfunctional ways. So investing in mentoring, investing in coaching, investing maybe some therapists are good at coaching people. Finding the right support for you, making that investment in yourself is going to get you a lot further than you will if you're doing it on your own. Because, like I said before, human beings love the comfort zone. We're trained through evolution to survive and avoid pain and seek pleasure. And if you've got betrayal trauma, if you've trusted people, if you deep down feel like something's wrong with you, if you feel like you're never going to have a good relationship, if you feel like life is unfair, that's what's comfortable for you. And in order to get out of that, you have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to heal your trauma properly. You have to be willing to make those patterns automatic. So, just to quickly recap, if you're 40, 50, or 60, if you're driven, if you're a career oriented woman, if you're educated, but behind closed doors, you struggle with emotionally abusive relationships. You struggle with codependent relationships. You can't get it right. It's like you got a red letter, scarlet letter taped to your back, like I'm a narcissist magnet, and you want to overcome that. These are the 5 things you need to master. Number 1 is being selfish, learning to prioritize yourself, learning to overcome the beliefs that you're a bad person if you tell people no. Number 2 is accepting responsibility for your own dysfunction, accepting responsibility for the ways that you are emotionally unavailable, for the ways that you are sabotaging your love life, and getting out of the blame game of it's my ex's fault, it's my parents' fault, I was raised by a narcissist, this is why, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. The moment you step into ownership of your choices is the moment your healing begins. So that's very critical to understand. The third shift that you need to be making is using trauma informed methods that are proven in research, that are backed by evidence and neuroscience to begin rewiring your brain and your body out of people pleasing, out of anxiety, out of hypervigilance, out of isolating, out of not communicating properly, and using those methods consistently. It's not enough to read a book. It's not enough to talk about your past and talk about for 45 minutes a week about what your ex did this time. It's not enough. It's too surfacey. These patterns are deeply ingrained in your psychology, your subconscious mind, and in your body. And these are places that talk therapy typically does not touch. The fourth thing that you need to be mastering is stepping out of your comfort zone on a regular weekly basis and learning to emotionally regulate yourself when you step into new challenges. Most people, if left up to their own devices, avoid doing that because they don't want to feel more uncomfortable. And the reason they stayed in toxic relationships for so long is because they didn't want to feel uncomfortable. They didn't want to walk away from the relationship because it was good sometimes. They didn't want to be alone. They didn't want to start over after all the emotional investments that they made with that person. So if your choices up until this point in your life have been about avoiding pain, those same choices are causing you to block pleasure and block the relationship that you want from coming into your life. So you got to be willing to step out of your comfort zone, be vulnerable, be willing to feel rejection, be willing to face abandonment, be willing to say no, be willing to piss people off and be okay with that. And then finally, investing and mentoring. When you work with somebody who's a skilled, trained, trauma informed professional who can see your blind spots clearer than you can, because it's hard when you're in it to see the forest for the trees and help you navigate that and be your advocate at times when you can't be your own advocate and help give you the roadmap and the strategy and the support, your life gets better in a shorter period of time. And I've talked to way too many women who spent years, it's been 4 years, 8 years, 10 years since their last relationship, and they still feel stuck. So if that's you, if you're wondering, will I ever have a great relationship? And you recognize you need some serious help with this, and you recognize, yeah, I need some accountability. Yeah, I need to be stepping out of my comfort zone, but on my own, I don't know how to do that. Then book a call. Go to bethanydotson.com/talk. We will have a very honest conversation with you about what's holding you back. Some people think, I think it's because of X, Y, and Z. Usually it's not those things. And we're going to get you also very clear on what you want, your dream life scenario, how you feel emotionally every single day, what a great relationship feels like for you. If we can help you, we'll show you what that looks like. This call is for women who are professional, who are single, you're not hoping to work it out with your ex, you're not seeing somebody new who you know in your heart is toxic, but you can't break free from that. You're all the way single. You're unencumbered from, if you're going through a divorce process, that's fine. But you're hardworking. Your love life tends to be the one sore sticking spot in your life. And you probably already invested in therapy. You've got some insights, but you're not seeing lasting transformation. If that is you, book a call, bethanydotson.com/talk, and we'll see if we can help you change the rest of your life and have healthy, happy, fulfilling relationships for the rest of your life that are free from your trauma. Take care, and I will see you next week. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. A brand new episode drops each week. Be sure to click and subscribe. And remember, healing trauma, codependency, and your lifelong pattern in love does not happen by itself. You need expert guidance and evidence-based methods. And I have helped hundreds of incredible women from all over the country heal betrayal trauma and reclaim their confidence while falling wildly in love with their own lives and attracting healthy relationships. If you like what you heard today and you want to see if you're fit to work with us, go to bethanydotson.com/talk. That's bethanydotson.com/talk and book a call to speak with us today. We'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes and get you crystal clear on 3 things. The real reason you keep attracting dysfunctional relationships, even if you know better or even if you've done tons of work on yourself. What you really want in a relationship, how you want to feel emotionally every single day in your life, and what lifestyle changes you want to make. And then number 3, the exact strategy you need to be using to get there. Again, healing trust issues, codependency, and a lifelong pattern does not happen without expert guidance. We've helped hundreds of women across the country heal complex trauma, codependency, and have the healthiest relationships ever, both with themselves and with others. Go to bethanydotson.com/talk to book your call today. I'll see you on the next episode.